crooked, just pretend that it isn't. It is October 4th. I'm still sick. It was bound to happen eventually. It's just, you know, there's never a convenient time to get sick, but I'm feeling a little bit better today, so I'm going to take full advantage, and I don't really need to work on Between the Waves right now, just because it's literally sitting at almost 30,000 words, and I'm aiming for this draft to be around 80,000, just because I'm really trying not to overwrite. I made it 80,000 because I know I am going to overwrite, so it'll probably end up 10,000 or so words over, but I figured if I set a lower goal, it would be okay, you know? I don't need to work on it right now because we got so much done at the end of the weekend and the beginning of this week. But what I do need to work on is both the poetry collection, which is still in the editing phase. I also need to finish the cover for that so that I can kind of stick to my timeline. And I also want to start making, or want to actually get into Preptober stuff. So for today, what that's gonna look like, I think, is creating a Pinterest board, which is wonderful. I love creating a Pinterest board. It's a huge part of my process when I'm prepping for a new novel. Love visuals. I'm a very visual person. I'm one of those people that when I'm reading and when I'm writing, I am like visualizing everything. So having a Pinterest board with visuals related to the project that I'm working on is very, very helpful for like, inspiration. So that's kind of the visual aspect for me, which I'm going to do. And then something else that I'm going to do is start to build a playlist for this project. I may actually already have a playlist for it, but I need to double check, and there's probably only a few songs in it. But that is another big part of my creative process, is making a playlist for the project that I'm working on. For me, scenes and countless story ideas that I've had have been triggered by a playlist or some sort of song or a movie score or just something that has to do with music has triggered so many ideas for me. I also listen to music when I'm writing, and generally when I'm writing certain scenes, I'll listen to like the same song on repeat if it has to do with that scene. So we're also gonna do that. I think I'm gonna go for a walk because I currently have Miss Luna with me and she needs a nice little walk, and I also need to get out of the house and get some fresh air. So I think we're gonna walk to a cafe, grab a decaf coffee, and while we walk, I'm going to start to listen to some playlists and kind of start to take inspiration and get the creative juices flowing. And then when we get back, we're gonna start on that Pinterest board to get the visuals going. And once those two things are not done, but once I've started those two things, that usually gets the ideas coming at me a mile a minute, and then I'll probably be ready to jump into the brain dump document, which is where we are going to dump every idea I've had so far for this story, things I want to happen, themes I want to explore. We're going to put in that document, and then from that document we start to build some actual structure. So that was just a rundown of the beginning parts of my creative process. That has kind of stayed the same for every story, to be honest. I think that's a part of my creative process that will probably stay the same for most projects. But you want to go for a walk, huh? We're gonna go for a walk now, and I will be back. It's time for a walk, huh? Yeah. I also need to deal with this whole situation. I'm basically moving this shelf into the corner just because I think it would fit a bit better there. So I'm gonna do that when we get back. Something that I'm having a really difficult time doing is slowing down, which is wild because I am so inspired by and just so badly want to have a bit of a slower life and just kind of relax a bit more often. But I think, I don't know, being sick the past few days, and as you can probably tell, still today, at first I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to slow it down, just try and relax. And while I have been doing that, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that, I had basically a day and a half of relaxation and just spending most of the time in bed and not letting myself do anything. And I've come to the realization that I think relaxation needs to be different for me because I cannot stay in bed for another day and just do nothing. But I think I just need to like find something that relaxes me and allows me to like be a bit slower while not doing nothing, because I think I've concluded that it's really hard for me to do nothing at this point and I'm just not there yet. But I feel like for me that probably is gonna look like things like reading or painting or going for walks, which I know is not really resting, but I think for me that actually is what rest needs to look like right now. But these are just kind of thoughts I've been having as I've been sick, and I've been telling myself to rest and relax, but it's also been wildly difficult to actually do that. But this morning I am obviously going to do a little bit of makeup and just kind of try to get ready, make myself feel a little bit more ready for the day, even though I'm still obviously sick. I'm sure you can hear it. I also should have gotten more sleep last night, but I was struck by the writing bug at approximately 9:30, which is just fantastic because I was like, oh, it's time to wind down, I'll get in bed soon. And then I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning because the writing bug struck specifically for the poetry collection, which I had set the poetry collection on the back burner just for a few days while I tried to get all of those scenes moved over for Between the Waves. And obviously I did get those moved over. Those are done now and we're back to just like straight drafting / fully rewriting any other scenes. Last night, I don't know, I guess I was having a little late night snack. Not late, it was like 9 p.m. And I was kind of just thinking, I don't know, I was browsing for a YouTube video to watch, which I generally do more often than I should. And I just like, nothing was sounding interesting. And I realized that I just felt like creating. I felt like expressing myself. So I decided that I would sit down and write some poetry and just kind of see what came to mind, maybe sort through the poetry collection a bit more and get a few more poems edited. And what ended up happening was I just started drafting some new poems, which after going through the rough draft of the poetry collection earlier or at the end of last month, I had come to the conclusion that I was going to need to rewrite or just like write some new poems just to fit with the themes a bit better, because I have a ton of poetry, but I've actually realized that a lot of the poetry would be better suited for a collection with different themes, just because the themes of this one are pretty specific. So I sat down and I started writing, and then I just kept writing, and then I wrote like 10 new poems. One sec, I don't know if I can talk while I do this part. Sorry, could not do that while talking. So once the kind of flow state had ended, I went to add the poems to the second draft. Maybe I can't talk and do makeup at the same time. So I went through and I added all of the new ones because all of the new ones were very in line with the theme, and I actually really liked all of the new ones pretty much. And I went and added them, and then I went through and I made the edits to the second draft because I had made like written edits onto the printed version. So I went and added all of those edits as well. And then I was listening to music, which also, as I've mentioned, triggers a lot of creativity for me. And I ended up writing like, I think 3 more poems, and I really liked them, so I added them. And then I went and highlighted and re-edited everything that I wanted that was pretty much 95% confirmed for the collection. My goal was to have 75 poems, around 75 in the collection, just because I thought that would be a good size and a good amount. And currently I have 68 poems confirmed to be in the collection and pretty much fully edited and ready to go. They'll get another pass, but like they're pretty much where I want them, which means I only have 7 poems left to actually figure out. I think they might be new poems, to be honest. Like, I don't know if they're going to be any of the ones that I had previously thought. And also 4 of those 7 poems that are left to get done, I already have a plan for, or I already have the snippets of them. It's just that they need to I need to finish writing them or totally rewrite them depending on the situation. But that's why I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning last night, because I have almost the entire poetry collection finished and edited and ready to go, save for a few poems that already have outlines or plans or have already been started and just needed to be edited, and possibly a couple new ones that need to be written, which I also already have the ideas for, and I already kind of know what I'm going to be writing for them. So that was a huge success. I also ended up writing another 700 words to be added to Between the Waves yesterday, which is great. And then I spent quite a bit of time on the Pinterest board for Project Geo, which I did show you in a screen recording. So at this point, you're probably getting a good idea of what Project Geo is going to be about, or just kind of some of the basic themes that are going to be in there. And all in all, it was, I was pretty sick and not feeling great, but it was still a really, really good day as far as creative projects went. And I am so happy about that. Okay, so I've started to build out the playlist, which I will totally share. I'll probably just put it here so you can see what the title of it is. There's not much in there yet, but we're getting there. We're starting to flesh it out. I've also just been listening to music and kind of going through the Pinterest board and adding pins, and I've been in the outline document, which is approximately 500 words long, so not very long. It's very, very short, but I hadn't realized how much of the plot I had actually already figured out, or the major plot points. So I actually pretty much I have a solid understanding of the plot. I know Act 1, I know the inciting incident, I know I've started to write out the main character's backstory, I know how I want it to end and kind of what I want the climax to be, and I also know the midpoint and then another point just after that where the stakes are kind of raised a bit more. So I actually kind of have the main points figured out, which is fantastic. I'm going to continue adding to this playlist and going through the Pinterest board. And I think the next step for me, honestly, is to start fleshing out the world a little bit, just because for me, so much of the world and the world building affects the rest of my plot and what the characters are named and how they act and what society is like. So I actually need to do that step fairly early on. I don't do a thorough world building process early on, but I do a basic one just so that I have a general understanding, and then I will add to that as I work through the story. Yeah, things are going well. Okay, so a couple things that I do when I get on Pinterest. I use Pinterest for visual inspiration. Sometimes I just kind of want to get the vibe of the book, and Pinterest is a really great way to do that for me. I already have quite a bit of information on in the board so far that has to do with the vibe and settings and the dragons and everything like that, which you can kind of see here. I've already got a bunch of stuff in here that I will be inspired by. But one thing that I need to do for this book is I actually need to develop a bit more of the main character. I'm going to look up character art and just start from there. Often my stories will start because I'm listening to a song or I'm consuming art in some way. I'm reading a book, watching a movie, anything really. And this like scene will come to me. And generally when that scene comes to me, it has a main character in it and I see the main character. So I have at least a general idea of what they're going to look like. But sometimes I don't really have a good idea of what they're going to look like until I actually like get into the story. I still have to come up with a name, like to confirm a name for the main character. And I also need to start figuring out what she's going to look like. I actually really like the way this girl looks. I mean, I feel like her face is pretty standard, maybe. Like it's pretty, but standard. But the outfit is very Project Geo. So I am gonna save that one. And then I'm also gonna check it out and see if there are other people that kind of like look similar to that. Oh, I like that one. So then I'll kind of like go through character art and try and find characters that remind me of characters that I've already come up with for the story. So I have a few. I have the main character, obviously. I know who the love interest is and I know who the main like team is going to be. So I will spend some time kind of going through Pinterest and then adding those to the board so that I can kind of start to get some character inspiration. So you can see up here. The nice thing also about Pinterest is that at the bottom of the board, it gives you like more ideas. So if I click for more ideas for the board, it will give me so much. So like this, yeah, I feel like that looks like her. I'm getting a better idea of what she looks like. This one, definitely. Also, while I do this, obviously I'm not doing it right now because I am recording and I don't want to get a copyright strike, but generally I will also listen to the playlist for my project while I'm doing this, and I'll start to like find new songs for the project or like songs to add to the playlist. While I look through Pinterest. Sometimes something that I'll do as well is I will actually like look up writing prompts almost. Wait, I like that one. So like I'll look up things like dragon fantasy prompts and I'll kind of see like what comes up with that. And then I'll just read through these. And sometimes like half of this stuff, I mean 75% of this stuff is not gonna have anything to do with my story. But every once in a while I'll open something up, like, I don't know, this maybe, and I'll read something that kind of gets the gears turning in my head, and then something will click for my own story. Also, when it comes to Pinterest, I will generally just like start to build the board, listen to the music, and then often when I'm doing this kind of like creative visual and audio work, and this kind of brainstorming, an idea will pop into my head and I'll need to like switch over to the outline doc, which I have open, and I will type in that idea. Pinterest and music, just start to like create a vibe for the book. This works really well for me. I'm sure for some people it doesn't, but this helps me so much to start to visualize things, and start to like really develop the core of the story. And I find that this is for me like the first step at starting to associate certain things within the story. So I'll be listening to fantasy music while I read this or while I look on Pinterest, and sometimes I'll like find an image. For example, I don't know, let's look at this one. This is beautiful. I'll like find an image and a certain song will be playing at that time, and all of a sudden a scene will start to play out in my head that's prompted by the music and the image that I'm looking at. And then I'll jump over and I'll start writing a scene, or I'll write down the idea for the scene. And I'll also do this throughout the process. Like if I am writing about a new character that I don't know much about and I want to figure out more about them, or like I'm writing about a new city or some sort of setting in the world that I haven't really thought through, I will totally go to Pinterest and I'll look up a couple keywords that I think kind of can describe what that's supposed to look like. Like for example, let's say that I want like a dragon prison. I don't know if there'll be anything for this. And I'm like, I don't know what that looks like. Like, what is it supposed to look like? A trapped dragon. And I'll look that up on Pinterest, and then I'll be like, okay, like which ones of these make sense to me? Which ones are gonna work for the story? Which ones remind me of like what I'm trying to go for? These ones are really sad. I'm kind of sad that I looked up this one. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit more of this, but honestly, I'm getting to the point where I'm pretty much ready to start just like brain dumping into that document any other ideas I had, and then just start to build out the plot, which is great because it's only October 5th. So we're getting pretty far into Preptober so far. Hello. As you will have just seen from the clip of me checking off items on my to-do list for today, I did in fact finish the poetry collection. It's tentatively done only because like for multiple hours over the past couple days, for some reason I just had the urge to like dive into it, so I've been staring at these poems and editing them and rereading them just over and over again. So I've sent them off to one of my friends who is going to read through them and let me know what she thinks, because I feel like I need at least a little bit of feedback right now. I just like need to send it to someone else and be like, tell me what you think. I've done that and I'm gonna leave it until she gets back to me, honestly. Like, I'm probably not gonna touch it again. That could be a lie. There is a chance that I'll go through it tomorrow and do another read through and just see if I missed anything, because I've already been working on it for hours today. But I finished that. I also made the playlist for Project Geo and I've started adding songs to it, and I'm feeling good about it. I also got the Pinterest board for it done, which is fantastic. I think that pretty much the main thing to do now before getting into the actual like in-depth plotting of it is to dive into that brain dump document and really just get out everything else that I want to get out. I've already been doing a pretty good job of doing that as I go, like as I hear a new song or as I see something on Pinterest, as I get an inspiration, I'll add to this document anyways. But I still want to go through and kind of just make a few more notes, brain dump anything else that's left over in my brain. And then I'm making myself a checklist for things that I want to have prepped before I start working on this story. It's not going to be specifically like a perfect plot and like have a plot ready to go. It's going to be a bit more than that. There are just certain things that I want to make sure I have before diving into this, just to make the process as smooth as possible. But I am going to talk about that in the next video, because I was editing this current video and it's already a little bit long, so I'm going to end this one here because we've got so much done. I feel good to have the poetry kind of out of the way, and now the only thing left to do is just keep pushing at Between the Waves and getting as many words in there as I can before the end of the month, and prepping for Project Geo. So I hope that you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you in the next one.